Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this tutorial, I'll be demonstrating how to create this gorgeous, super tall gold cake with flowers. This is an 8-inch cake that I've got in white mud, and I'm adding in a hybrid ganache and buttercream frosting. The recipe for both the ganache and the buttercream can be found in the description box underneath this video or in the eye icon up top. Once I've got 3 layers down, I'm going to add in some bubble tea straws, and these are there to support the weight of the cake, which is going to be super tall. I've added in 6, and I've on purpose left out the middle, going in with some buttercream frosting with ganache again, and then adding my cake board in between. Because it's a really tall cake, you do need to have this support system in place. These were 3 cakes that I used cut in half, so there are 6 layers of cake in total. I'm going to create the crumb coat, which is just a thin layer of frosting all around the cake to trap in the crumbs. Go around with your bench scraper and then smooth out the top with your spatula. Once it's nice and neat, into the fridge it goes for at least 20 minutes to set before you apply the final layer of frosting. This is technically a 2.5 tiered cake, so this is a top tier. It is a 5-inch, and it's sitting on an acrylic disc which has a hole in the center for our center dowel to travel through. Create a crumb coat and then pop it back into the fridge for 20 minutes and work on your half tier, which is a 4-inch cake, and I've only used 1 cake for this, and I'm only creating a crumb coat. I didn't really bother with a final coat on this one. Once the frosting's nice and set, pop on your final layer. I've used a ganache-based frosting because ganache works best under fondant. Repeat the same step for your top tier as well. Into the fridge they go, overnight if possible, to give your ganache the best chance to set completely. And then here I'm rubbing vegetable shortening along the outside to help my fondant to stick. I've rolled out my fondant 3mm or so in thickness, draped it over the top, made sure to press out any air from the very top of the cake, and now I'm just undoing the pleats and massaging the fondant onto the cake. The thing with fondant is that it can smell fear, so just do not fear it, just enjoy the process, it will work out, and with practice you will get better and better. But basically just undo those pleats and massage it onto the cake. Using a fondant smoother to make sure it's all well adhered, and then trimming off the excess. Go around with your fondant smoother, smooth down the edges. You might find some little air bubbles coming up here and there. Just poke them side on with a pin and push out that air. Once it's nice and neat, you can set it aside at room temperature, or if you have perishable fillings, into the fridge. Your fondant will sweat, just bring it back to room temperature slowly. This might mean that you bring it back to room temperature in a air-conditioned room. I covered my middle tier in fondant as well, just speeding up the process here. Cutting off the excess and smoothing it down. I like to use 2 fondant smoothers to create those nice sharp edges on the fondant cakes. Now for the big one. This one is daunting because it is so tall. I ended up using a whole bunch of fondant. But if you do end up using too much fondant at once, it is super heavy, so you're going to risk it breaking on your cake. Try to use just enough that you need, push out the air, and the very first thing you want to do is secure that top edge. So really massage that on there so that it can't rip at the top. If your fondant cracks, it's usually because A, it's too heavy, B, it's too dry, it's lost its flexibility, or it could be that your room is too cold as well. That stops your fondant from being able to stretch because it kind of seizes it. If you can work around these 3 conditions, you usually won't really have a problem. Once you've reached the bottom, cut off the excess and then use your fondant smoothers to smooth it out just like the other 2 cakes. I'm clapping the 2 fondant smoothers at the very top to pinch the fondant and create that sharp edge. Because I'm painting it in gold, I don't want to mess up my cake board, so I've just applied a whole bunch of masking tape to my cake board, and I've taken a large blush brush, some vodka and edible luster dust in gold, created a thick paint and painting it all over the cake. If you can't use vodka, you can also use distilled white vinegar or lemon juice or lemon extract, anything that has a high level of acidity or alcohol. Basically, it's just going to evaporate really quickly, leaving behind a beautiful gold shimmer. I've done 2 coats. I've made sure that my first coat had overnight to dry. And I have a little ribbon here. It's really hard to find a ribbon the exact color as your cake, so I've just painted it with that same gold, and that way it matches completely. My cake that's going on top of this is only the 4-inch one, so it's going to be smaller than the top tier. I'm marking on the cake whereabouts I'd like to add my dowels before I actually put them in to make sure that it's smaller than my 4-inch cake. Cut your dowels flush with the top of your cake. And do the same with your 4-inch. Once it's completely dry, peel back that masking tape to reveal your nice and untainted white cake board. Pop a center dowel into your cake all the way to the bottom if you can, so make sure that that 8-inch cake board in the middle of your 8-inch cake does have a hole in there. And stick the cakes together with a little bit of frosting as well. I've cut the dowel to be just a little bit shorter than my cake because I don't want it coming out the very top. Gently guide that down, and your cakes are all stacked. For the flowers, I've stuck them into the cake with food safe wires. You can buy food safe wire from your local cake decorating specialty store. Feed it through the base of a flower and then twist it shut so the flower can't escape. When choosing flowers, try to consider 1, the color, and 2, the shape and size of the flower. I wanted to make sure that it had enough of a base that I could put the wire through. Some flowers don't have much of a base and they're a bit tricky to insert wires into. Once they've all been wired, you're ready to decorate your cake. So I am literally just popping them directly into that 4-inch. And this is the reason why I wanted the middle tier to be short and smaller than my top tier, so I had a bit of a wedge there to help my flowers to really pop out. It also doesn't take away from the height of your top tier. I've kind of noticed when you do add floral arrangements on your cake, you end up taking away the height of the cake that's on top of the flowers. So this is another reason why I wanted that middle tier there. I've also added gyp flowers. These are little white filler flowers. They just look adorable and elegant in any floral arrangement. And you're done. And that is how you create a beautiful wedding-worthy cake with an extra tall gold tier decked out with flowers. It is so ridiculously simple, but once you add the flowers and all the elements together, it just looks really elegant. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and you give it a go. And if you do, hashtag Rosie's Dessert Spot on Instagram so I can see your photos as well. Just quickly as well, I have that middle tier, which is that tall, and it's a real cake. You can just do a fake cake. So the styrofoam instead. Maybe just drill a hole in the center so you can still add that center doweling. But if you don't want to make like a mini cake in the center, the wire will still go through styrofoam. So just a little tip there. It also means that you don't get any wire in your cake whatsoever, because I know how controversial that topic is. There are a whole number of ways that you can make your fresh flowers food safe or fake flowers food safe. So today I've just demonstrated the food safe wire method. That's it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you again on Tuesday for another cake decorating tutorial. Bye for now.